And now on the line is Dr. Jeffrey O'Callaghan from Trinity College. Jeffrey, welcome to Near FM.
Hi, thanks very much for having me.
Okay, Jeffrey, I got in touch with you for this interview today to mainly talk about the great news that was reported last week on your work to find a treatment for glaucoma. As this is my first interview with you on radio in general, though, could you start off, Jeffrey, by telling me a bit about your background first and how you ended up working in Trinity College?
Sure. Well, my background is basically in gene therapies for ocular disorders in general. And my main job is to design and develop these gene therapies and find ones that have promise that could be eventually one day made into a gene therapy treatment for patients with eye diseases. And this all started back in 2015 when I started my PhD here in Trinity College Dublin. And we found some interesting things that we can talk about. And that was the course of my PhD. We developed these gene therapies, and ever since then, I've stayed in the lab just because I found the work myself so interesting. It's always been a passion of mine to help patients, and developing gene therapies was the most interesting way I could find of doing that.
Okay, are you from Dublin yourself, eh?
I'm actually from Donegal, but I've been living in Dublin for the past 12 years or so.
Yeah, I don't actually notice a Donegal accent from you. I don't know if anyone's ever said that to you, have they?
I get that quite a lot, actually.
Yeah, I love Donegal. Okay, you kind of already touched on it there, but there's great news reported in the media last week. I read an article in the Irish Times, the Irish News about it, about your work on glaucoma. Can you fill me in on the background of the story, Jeffrey, and how the story evolved?
Yes, of course. So, if you're not familiar with glaucoma, it's an eye disease that affects about 80 million people globally, and that's projected to only increase to 110 million by 2040. And what happens with glaucoma is that you have a buildup of pressure in the front of your eye, and that's basically there's more fluid there than the eye is able to cope with. So it increases the pressure, and that puts physical strain on the retina, which can eventually lead to cell death of your photoreceptors. So if that's not treated, it can eventually lead to progressive vision loss. And after many years, you'd start to lose your peripheral vision and eventually complete blindness. So as part of my PhD, we were trying to find ways to alleviate this pressure in the front of the eye. And how this normally happens is the fluid builds up because the normal drainage channels, what we call the outflow pathway, basically gets blocked. And it gets blocked with these proteins that are made by the cells and are not able to be cleared properly, and then that results in the buildup of fluid. So what we've done is we found a protein, which is called matrix metalloproteinase 3, and that protein's job is to basically chew up all of this extra protein material that's blocking the drainage channels. So what we're able to do is we're able to take this protein and we're able to deliver it into the eye, and we can basically give the eye more of this protein so it's able to tip the balance and help the eye to clear all of this extra protein, which then clears fluid, and then your pressure goes down, which means you'd be more protected against this glaucoma. So so the gene therapy then is basically what we're able to do is take this protein and incorporate it into a virus. And this virus is a virus that we're able to design and program in the lab. And we can take this virus and inject it into eyes. And we've been able to monitor it over the course of about a year in animals. And we're able to see that we're getting our target amounts of our protein, and that we're able to see that even after a year, it's still able to clear this protein and reduce the pressure in the eye.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. Okay, so gene therapy, the whole area of gene therapy is a fascinating area, I believe, Jeffrey. Although I have to say I don't know a lot about it. When you talk about gene therapy, do you mean actually genes like in people's bodies? And can you tell me and our listeners today on their FM, Jeffrey, a bit more about the whole area of gene therapy in general?
Sure. Yeah. Well, so gene therapy is basically a treatment that involves introducing new or modified genetic material, so think DNA, into a person's cells, and to be able to treat or prevent different diseases. So it's achieved by delivering the genetic material to the target cells using a carrier, and often this carrier is basically a programmed virus. So we take out the bad things from the virus, and then we can program it to deliver the genes that we want it to deliver. And once that genetic material is inside the cells, it can replace defective genes, or it can introduce a new gene to compensate for a malfunctioning one. So gene therapy really has the potential to revolutionize the way we treat many genetic diseases, including cancers or inherited disorders or even viral infections.
Yeah. Okay. Jeffrey. Okay. How confident are you, Jeffrey, that your research will translate into a treatment, or has the work been done and it is definitely going to work? Like.
That's a great question. So a lot of the challenges that researchers in the field of gene therapy face is that their research can show great results on the bench, or it can show great results in mice. But then when you try to bring that technology into larger animal models, like monkeys or humans, then the effect just isn't the same. But what we've been able to see over the last couple of years is that our technology is translating really well in monkeys, and so we're able to see what we're able to see is really safe and tolerated effects of this virus. So it's not having any damage, and it is still being able to clear the fluid buildup. So we're very confident then that now that we've seen it working in monkeys, that it would translate pretty well to humans.
Okay. It would be fantastic from a public health point of view if your research leads to a treatment, wouldn't it, Jeffrey?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that would be the dream, because the amount of people with glaucoma that we could potentially have a positive effect on would be amazing. A lot of these patients, the main issue is their current treatments, which are eye drops. And the biggest issues with these eye drops is, well, first of all, patient compliance, which means people are forgetting to take them, or they're not able to take them properly. A lot of glaucoma patients are typically older patients. So these eye drops, they can't work if they're not taken properly. And the second issue is that up to 10% of patients don't even respond to these drops, which means the drops just don't work for everyone. And 10% of people, 10% of patients is a lot of people when you're talking, 80 million in total. So if we can try and find a way with our gene therapy to resolve these issues, but also prevent patients from going down the second route of treatment, which is surgeries. And surgeries are complicated, and they have their own side effects and complications over time, and they're usually a last resort. So gene therapy, well, we love the idea of it because it's what we call a one and done approach. So you wouldn't need to take your eye drops every day. You wouldn't have to get surgeries. It would simply just be a single injection, and that would be a much more permanent solution to the problem.
Yeah, am I right in saying, Jeffrey, that glaucoma is not a big issue, public health issue in the Western world, but in a lot of poor countries, it's a huge issue?
Yes, that's true. It's much more of an issue in less developed countries, and that's mainly because they don't have access to the current treatments that those in Western countries do. So, I mean, the eye drops are very readily available. Access to ophthalmologists and opticians is readily available. Surgeries, while complicated, can still be done, but all of these aren't available in developing countries. So having a gene therapy with a one and done approach would mean you wouldn't necessarily need follow-ups with doctors to try and get eye drops. You wouldn't need follow-ups with doctors for surgeries. So it really would reduce the impact on public health systems.
The work the organisation Sightsavers and other eye organisations are doing in less developed countries is brilliant, isn't it?
Yes, that's fantastic. Yeah, these charities are really, really important.
Yeah,
Because the cost of these medications is astronomical. When there's this many people affected by a disease, it's a real strain on public health systems.
I've done a couple of radio interviews with Sight Savers Ireland over the last few years. Okay, Jeffrey, is your own personal research on this now finished? I'm just curious as to whether you are going to be involved in the future stages of the treatment's progression. Like, is there a time frame, kind of like what's going to happen over the next few months or years?
That's a good question. I mean, I'd certainly hope to be involved. So I've taken this potential therapy from from the bench into mice and into monkeys, and the next stage really for this therapy is to do even more safety studies. We've shown it's really safe in the eye, but we'd like to do some more longer term studies in monkeys to make sure that it is in fact as safe as it seems, because safety is paramount. Well, after that, then the next stages would then be to start human clinical trials, which would be amazing to start. But it's very hard to put a timeline on that because these clinical trials can take years realistically. So it is hard to say when this would be available for patients. But I'd hopefully keep an eye on it myself and be involved with it the whole way through.
But the indications are that you've done something brilliant, and over the next probably few or several years, there is a very good chance we'll have a gene treatment for humans. Yeah.
Yes, we'd certainly hope so. Yes.